I was being set up to be sterilized like I was some kind of animal. This statement was read aloud in front of the North Carolina State Task Force on behalf of Niall Ramirez, a victim of the state eugenics program which occurred about 5 decades ago. The eugenics program was put into place to sterilize people who had what they called unfit characteristics which would be passed from parent to child. It is a saddening thing to know that our country ever took part in something as horrific as this. Innocent people were deceived, manipulated, and had a decision made for them that should have solely been theirs. First, I will tell you about what sterilization and the process of eugenics is, and its purpose. Next, I will inform you about the sterilization programs in the U.S., mainly focusing on North Carolina and their victims. Finally, I will tell you about the action that is in progress to give back to the victims that were involved, followed by my own thoughts on this topic. The results of my survey showed that only half of my audience members were familiar with the term sterilization. However, as I spoke with them, no one knew what eugenics was or that it had anything to do with human sterilization. Sterilization involves a medical procedure performed in both men and women, which leaves them unable to reproduce or conceive children. It was the action that was taken to promote eugenics, literally meaning well born. The term refers to the intentional and selective breeding of humans to improve the qualities of human species or population. This included discouraging people to reproduce who have undesirable inheritable traits, or encouraging reproduction with someone who has ideal inheritable traits. Amazingly, between the years of 1907 and the late 1960s, sterilization laws were adopted by over 30 states across the U.S. However, in 1933, it came to the attention of many U.S. states that German Nazis had been using sterilization procedures on Holocaust victims to promote what Hitler called the Aryan race. Most states abandoned their law due to the fact that it was so close in resemblance to the Nazi policy. Regardless of the similarity, North Carolina's program continued and actually peaked during the 1950s and 1960s, even after other states had discontinued their efforts. The large target of the North Carolina Eugenics Board included poor African American women, minors, and victims of rape or incest. Other victims targeted were criminals, the mentally ill, women considered to be sexual deviants, and gay men. Sadly, in the majority of these cases, women, young teens, and men were unknowingly undergoing surgery without their consent. In other cases, guardians of victims were pressured to give consent to what the doctors called an irreversible surgery in fear that they would have their benefits taken away. As in the case of Mrs. Ramirez, she was told that she was promiscuous and did not get along well with others. Another victim, Elaine Riddick, was sterilized at the age of 13 after giving birth as a result of being raped by a neighbor. A social worker deemed her unfit to breed, and administrators forced her illiterate grandmother to sign an X on a paper which she did not know gave permission to have her granddaughter sterilized. While North Carolina has not provided their victims with any type of acknowledgement, the state is the first to consider establishing a program to compensate the victims after being charged with advising restitution for the victims this past June. They had a public meeting for which anyone could attend to voice their opinion. Victims were given the opportunity to speak about their experiences and to discuss what they felt a proper settlement would be. Yet the mere 7 states that have recognized their victims did so in a way of a formal apology. Without certainty, North Carolina state representatives considered offering $50,000, but legislators agreed the amount was too high. They are now considering whether to offer $20,000 or pay medical expenses. Unquestionably, this is a serious issue that has affected the lives of U.S. citizens. In total, over 60,000 people were sterilized without their consent across the 32 states, with 7,600 residing in North Carolina. My survey showed that a majority of the audience agreed that it is not right to perform sterilization without the consent of the person. Also, about half of the audience agreed that the victims should be rewarded with money. I think that it would be a reasonable decision to award sterilization victims a maximum amount of $20,000, along with any medical expenses being covered. I also believe that all sterilization victims should be issued a formal apology. Because only 8 states out of the 32 have acknowledged their victims, the least the other states could do is issue a formal apology. I'm sure with just the simple effort of sending out an apology, it would give a lot of victims peace of mind and finally give them the confidence to put this behind them.